What does a good male body actually look like? Some would say that answer is subjective. The men on Twitter would call you a liar. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm your friend Kevin, your favorite personal trainer who is also chronically online, but I don't think I have to explain that second part evidenced by the subject at hand. So recently, popular UK musician Ollie Murs, and I use air quotes because I'm American and one of our favorite pastimes is telling British people that we don't know who their favorite celebrity is, but I digress. After participating in a 12-week fitness program, Ollie Murs' nutritionist shared a before and after on his Instagram, congratulating Ollie for his progress. Then, someone took that post and shared it on Twitter, adding a poll asking if he looked better or worse and if you were voting as a man or a woman. And as you can see from the poll, there is a significant difference from the men who thinks he looks better after and the women who thinks he looks better before. And that spurred its own debate. However, things got really stupid after user Alex Oki quote tweeted, "Why are women lying?" And that's when all hell broke loose. And I want to dissect that for a moment. Why do men think women are lying when they tell them what they think is attractive? And what about these men aren't registering to the female gaze? So let's get one thing straight. This conversation is often misinterpreted because sometimes, not always, but sometimes, women can be very misleading in what they're asking for. For instance, some women say they want a man with a dad bod and then point to images like this. The problem is this is an extremely built man who simply does not have abs. The difference between these two images is a body fat percentage. And already we've run into a trap, because posting this photo while trying to advocate for body diversity is contradicting your entire point, because the journey to obtain either of these bodies is incredibly similar. So you've taken a shitty conversation where men are accusing women of only wanting chads who are big, cut, and handsome, and you've responded with, "That's not true, they don't need to be cut." So you haven't dismantled anything, you've just added an exception. But regardless, all that is to say, if you see someone online propping up an aesthetic in order to promote equality or how woke they are, it's a trap. And I know that a lot of it's engagement farming, but also some of it's not. And the difference between someone who's doing it for the lols and someone who is desperately trying to virtue signal is a blurred line, and it's best just to stay away from all of it. So let's get to the real reason we're here. Why are men, generally the people who want to attract women, saying that women are wrong when women tell men what they're attracted to? Well, it's because men are confusing validation with companionship. The truth is, most people are not attracted to bodybuilders. And that's by design. Most bodybuilders don't think they are the most attractive version of themselves when they're on stage competing. Because competing as a bodybuilder is not about being the most attractive or even the strongest. It's about showing off the most impressive build of the body. The stage look is not meant to be attractive to women, it's to be awe-inspiring and otherworldly. I think that men will see people's reaction to Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 70s and believe that that is the same reaction they will get today. But that's not the case. This isn't as special anymore. It doesn't carry the same cultural impact. Now don't get me wrong, it's impressive, it's the blueprint. But nowadays there's a plethora of huge bodybuilders flexing in the mirror and showing off their physique, and most people just don't care. In the same way men don't value the time and skill it takes to put on a full face of makeup, women don't value how much time or skill it takes to grow biceps larger than your head. So if it's not about attracting women, why do men gravitate towards images like these? Well, I actually think it's pretty easy to tell if you take a look at the culture of bodybuilding itself. You can't look through any of the profiles of big muscled dudes without finding some kind of reference to the Hulk or a big superhero. And of course that's in part because of the association with large muscle growth, but also because the Hulk's mainstream identity is that Bruce Banner is a smart, well-meaning, nice man who has an uncontrollable monster inside of him who is also a good guy. The bursts of rage, the destruction, the lack of control. In the narrative surrounding Hulk, all of these events lead to a good outcome. The Hulk gets to be mainstream because he validates masculinity. Meanwhile, similar stories like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde treat the character like an other. Because of their unpredictability, they are shunned and feared. And this is why classic monster movies are often queer-coded, because there's no redemption. There's no point in the story where they're embraced. Frankenstein's monster is feared because he was born different, he has a dad who hates him, and he doesn't get along with kids. If that's not the queer experience, I don't know what is. But going back to the Hulk, you can see these patterns in the math. If Hulk doesn't have a pretty lady standing next to him that understands he's just a troubled little guy who's doing his best, audiences just really don't buy it. And I know I'm simplifying a little bit, but I just don't think it's a coincidence that the story where Hulk fights his childhood trauma and Hulk treats women like his equal are the two least popular representations of Hulk in the last 25 years. And this expectation that the Hulk can be a thing that can solve problems with anger all began with the TV show from 1977 starring Lou Ferrigno, a famous bodybuilder. This image doesn't represent a desire to be the biggest guy or the most popular with the ladies. This is a symbol that the intense emotion that you feel might be scary to some, but that's because you're the misunderstood good guy. And that's why men spiral when women say they don't care about this. It's because a lot of them are waiting for their love interest to come along, understand their pain, and forgive them. There's this type of video that always circulates online where you have men in a gym lifting and running and giving themselves these crazy obstacles. And then the poster of the video has a caption like, "What's harder than this?" And then people quote tweet or share with jokes about their personality or fandom or just dunking on the video itself. And of course, this is just a way to farm views. However, I think the fact that these are so easy to turn into a punchline says a lot about the content itself. Because these videos, although technically impressive, display an entirely useless talent that only exists to be filmed. The lesson here is just because an activity is hard to do doesn't mean it carries any value. I think what's put us in this position is that a lot of men don't feel desired by women. So they turn to other men to ask why the situation is the way it is, and they are then taken advantage of by opportunists. Men who lie to them in order to sell them pills or lifestyles, anything that'll supply a quick dopamine hit at first, but do nothing to actually solve the problem of their loneliness. So many men think that masculinity is about being dominant and in control over every situation, because to a powerless person, control feels powerful. But that's not how you set up an equal partnership. A man with no bitches asking another man with no bitches why neither of them have any bitches will never understand why they have no bitches, because they're not asking the bitches. Respectfully. The vast majority of women are not lying when they say what they prefer. What a lot of men have done is created an incubating chamber that's based on what they think is cool and good, and shut out the voices that don't subscribe to their original thoughts that have created the chamber in the first place. Men will say they want companionship with women, but they don't respect women enough to listen and learn about building a relationship that a woman wants to be in. So instead, men will reach for goals that they think women will be impressed by, and when they aren't, they spiral. Strength, resilience, character. I see these words used all the time when it comes to explaining how to be successful at the gym and how to build muscle. And frankly, they're 100% right. But too many men think that phrase only applies to the gym. And it's just so embarrassing because those words have never belonged to men. Men don't own strength, men don't own resilience, and men certainly don't own character. Please. To a degree, I think it's a little stupid to put all the blame on men for not understanding women. Like, our brains are wired differently, we care about different things. But at the same time, I don't think women are asking to be completely understood. But I think more so, this entire conversation, this entire poll, boils down to women identifying what makes them feel safe. In Girls Who Like Boys, a book that dissects and goes into detail about how common it is for women to enjoy watching gay porn, one part that really surprised me was a section that talked about how some women like watching gay porn because in their view, despite everything being consensual, watching heterosexual porn is still a reminder of the power imbalance, where instead they perceive male-on-male porn to have less consensual ambiguity and has an equal gendered playing field behind the whole production. Lots of women like hands on the backs of their heads during oral sex scenes. The problems arise when the hand is always a man's hand and the head is always a woman's head. I just find that so fascinating because that single page alone shows me how often I do not see situations that still carry gendered expectations. Women want to feel safe with the people they're around, especially the strangers that are taking them out on dates. This is not going to make women feel safe. It's actually probably going to do the opposite. And men that emulate this, or want to emulate this, or are calling women stupid for not understanding why it's important, might be missing the point. But anyway, that's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. Comment down below if you have any thoughts on anything I talked about today. You can find me in that comment section, either taking the discussion a step further or fighting for my life. We will see when this gets posted. But still, thank you so much. Like and subscribe, and I will see ya next time. Tango, you nailed that.